I've been collecting Mark Twain since I was in college, which has been like at least 45 to 50 years ago now. Everybody read Huck Finn, you know, and Tom Sawyer when they were kids, and those were special editions that were made for kids. But if you get into the original works, you find out they're quite a bit different than the ones that everybody thinks they are. So I just discovered a whole different dimension to Mark Twain than what you usually get in you know, grammar school or grade school. When I first got started, I lived in LA for a time, and there were dozens and dozens of used bookstores down there. So I used to just go down there on the weekends and sort through all the books, and I found all kinds of interesting stuff down there in Los Angeles. And all cities have an old town that's full of bookstores. Used to be anyway, not so much anymore. I've got books in 3 different rooms. I'd say there's maybe 1,000 or 1,500 different volumes. They're not all written by Mark Twain, because I have reference books too, biographies and books about Mark Twain, criticism, etc. We'll check out the first editions in here. This antique cabinet with the glass doors has most of my first edition Mark Twain's. I think there might be a few in the other room. And also it has on the top all of the Mark Twain limited edition club books, because they put out, oh, there must be a dozen of them up there. They put out all of his novels in the limited edition club, so those are all signed and numbered. And there's also several Norman Rockwells up there that are signed, because he did illustrations for Tom Sawyer and Huckleberry Finn back in the early part of the century. I'm not sure the exact year, but and let's go over to the other room. Now this room has more modern books, biographies, criticisms, reference books, and I like to kind of keep it cluttered, because it looks kind of like an old used bookstore in this part right here, and you don't come across those much anymore. So on this wall behind the glass cages, or the glass doors, I have that first original set that I mentioned earlier. Those are these green books in the back. I can get one out and show you how fragile they really are. They'll have the gilt title on the spine, and then you open it up, and believe it or not, when I first got these, some of them were uncut along the bottom. Back in the old days, I used to print books, you know, like 4 pages on a sheet, and then they'd have to cut them. So some of these had to be cut at the bottom by hand. So that's Life on the Mississippi from the, what's the date on that? I can't read it, but 1875 up there, copyright. This book isn't that old. This book's from like the 30s, 20s or 30s. So anyway, I've got the complete set of that edition. That was part of what got me buying all of these other books, was because when I found this set, there were about 6 or 8 volumes missing. When I finally figured out which ones were missing, then I was on my way to becoming a full-fledged collector. So I finally collected all of those volumes for this particular set. So it's complete. And in the meantime, I also collected several other complete sets, like the one on the top, which is basically the same books. They're just from a different publisher. And then the ones in the middle here with the yellow dust covers, those are from the Mark Twain Project in Berkeley. They've been putting out annotated scholarly editions for many years, and I've got all of those. And then on this wall over here are books about Mark Twain. Also my 1601 collection is here. I'm not sure if it's appropriate for mixed company, but that was a little racy story that Mark Twain wrote when he was being kind of a rascal. This is it's hard to see what that is. It's called a manuscript edition of The Adventures of Huckleberry Finn, and there's 2 volumes. I'll just show you the first one here real quick. It's not super rare, but what it is it's a reproduction of the original handwritten manuscript of Huckleberry Finn in Mark Twain's hand, showing some of his changes, corrections. It's kind of a student or a scholar would be interested in having this. It shows how he makes changes to the manuscript, after he's written it. So this is a 2-volume set. I've got one for Tom Sawyer too that's in there, but it's very similar. So that's pretty, I haven't had that out for years. This is kind of a special piece here. I got this from Nick Karanovich, who was a famous Mark Twain collector. He's now deceased, but he gave several classes and seminars on Mark Twain, and he wrote this book and put it together, and he inscribed this to me, and this was in 1998. So you want me to read what that says?
Sure.
It says, about 90 years after Mark Twain took this trip, Pond's journal and photographs find their way to me, meaning Nick Karanovich. What a thrill it was. Anything can be anywhere. Happy hunting. So he encourages people to keep looking around, and that quote, anything can be anywhere, Cadillac Jack. Another aspect of Mark Twain that I got into more recently is miniature books. Now, all of the books in this cabinet have some tie-in with Mark Twain. They were either a story about him or one of the stories that he wrote that was translated, or I'm not sorry, not translated, but miniaturized. So this is a story he wrote about the Civil War called Luck, and these have book plates in them from previous owners. Some of this is are famous people from the miniature book world, and the artwork is all miniaturized, and then it's just illustrated and bound. Then this is an interesting one here. It's a little teeny weeny book. I don't know if I can get it out of there. Do you want to see that? Because I'm not sure. I think it's by Barbara Rehow, and she's noted for doing the really smallest miniature books, and she does all this artwork by hand, and it's actually got printing in it. You have to read it with like a 20 power 20 power magnifying glass. Well, it's kind of like a long-term project, I guess. I've been working on it for 40 years plus. There's still things I don't have. A lot of it's monetary. I don't have a first edition Huck Finn or Tom Sawyer because they're not only rare, but they're many thousands of dollars, and I just haven't bought those or even seen them recently. So, but hopefully, that might change in the future.